will be alright. Maybe he should come with us.
Tobias is better off far away from us. As long as we have the artifact, none of us will be safe. We'll be lucky to get out of here in one piece.
We should take the trade lane to Stokes, and from there we'll jump to the Tau 31 system.
We don't have any time to waste. Let's go.
We wouldn't be far. Give up the artifact. All exits out of the system are blocked. You cannot get out.
We'll see about that.
As you wish.
All weapons open fire. Greetings, I am Solidus-Skully. And, yeah, I'm not gonna do that silly voice anymore. But anyway, welcome back to Freelancer as we are once again in the throes of combat as we deal with more Rhinelanders trying to take the artifact away from us so they can fartifact on it. But yeah, they're quite clearly on our trail at this point, and, well, I mean, again, as we're pretty much continuing our escape, it's not going to be quite as harrowing as our escape from Liberty, but, well, I mean, I did mention in the previous part that, well, if not then at least now, I did talk about difficulty, but, yeah, it's right about this point where the game really does start to amp up a little bit more, and, yeah, you really begin to feel the game's, well, for lack of a better phrase, you know, ship equipment level gating. Yeah, level gating, I think that's probably an appropriate term. Again, I mentioned in previous parts that, you know, your equipment and, you know, ships, classes that you can equip are gated by, well, you know, level progression. In the sense that, again, you need to level up appropriately in order to get the more powerful ships. So again, you can't just, bugger off to, like, a Omega 5 or whatever, grab a very powerful, you know, Saber or Eagle or whatever, and then pretty much come back and make the game a breeze. So, yeah, you do very much need to, sort of play the game its way as opposed to any other way. Whether or not that was intended to be so back when, you know, the game was still being developed and promised a lot of its hefty features, remains to be seen. But, either way, I mean, it does make the game scale appropriately, and, let's just say, I mean, compared to how I found this game as a kid, as I mentioned in the last part, yeah, it's not quite as easy as I remember it being, so either my skills have degraded as an adult, or, well, I was much better at this game when I was younger than I am now. But then again, such is the nature of, you know, childhood when you had free time of the wazoo, whereas now you don't have free time and you have to, well, sort of make some more sacrifices for more important things. And when you are playing video games, you're making sacrifices for time that's better spent doing other things. But in any case, so, onto the game itself, yeah, the Rhineland ships, I've pretty much taught you all the basics and, you know, everything that you can do right there. I guess in terms of some other maneuvers I can really talk about in terms of dogfighting, and especially in regards to some of the more rapid-fire lasers, like, again, some of the stealth blazers the Rhinelanders have, and, you know, some of the Justice lasers that the Liberty ships have. Why would I bring that? It's not like we're gonna see them again. Or will we? But yeah, one of the maneuvers I do recommend utilizing during combat is actually, yeah, just cut your engines completely and use the afterburner. And what that basically allows you to do is that, again, when you use the afterburner, you're pretty much moving at top speed. So again, like, I mean, the speed you're moving when you're using your thruster / afterburner is pretty much moving at the speed you would be, you know, going at top speed as you see right here. So, yeah, again, with cut engines, you pretty much stay stationary in space at whatever position you are. But again, you can pretty much just sort of zigzag in and out of enemy fire and, you know, either be a stationary target so you can target enemies a little bit easier, and in turn, you know, it also makes them difficult to track you. So again, they don't have like an arc, so to speak. I guess to put it in simple tactics, like, again, instead of shooting where I was, you should have shot where I was going to be. So yeah, that way they can't really track you if you're just sort of moving in a bit of a zigzag motion. I've decided to call this tactic the Space Invaders thing. You know, pretty much based on that one joke from Futurama where, you know, Fry was playing Space Invaders and he couldn't get the last ship because his brother always got the last ship for him. Oh. But in any case, so we only have one last place to go. The jump gate. We'll never see the smoggy galaxy ever again. Fare thee well, industrial England. Although, really, from what I've seen of the place in the modern years, I don't really think there's a lot of industry left, or at least, you know, a lot that tended to characterize England from its 19th and 20th centuries, so, yeah, acquiesced. Oh, yes, we do. Well, I mean, again, I suppose we do technically have jump holes, but, yeah, even in that case, let's just say Rhineland has a lot of their bases covered. Although, again, they are still provoking international, intergalactic, one might say, wars between different systems. Yeah. But in any case, the chips are down and things are looking a little bit harsh. Who will save us? Would it be Jesus? Would it be Space Jesus? Who could it be?
Open fire, chaps. We have to take out that cruiser.
Oh, Squadala, it's Tobias. And, yeah, it's something that Trent actually does remark in his, you know, little in-flight journal kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, Tobias, he did fly for the Bretonian Armed Forces, and, yeah, all that bragging from his, you know, Bretonian naval days, that wasn't bullshitting. He actually does have a lot of skills, you know, behind the flight stick, and, he does very much show it off here. He's actually one of the more useful allies to have in combat. Although, I mean, that being said, though, like, I mean, in terms of a lot of your allies, you don't really find them dying all that often, so again, like, Junie and, you know, all that sort of thing should pretty much stay alive regardless of their very outdated equipment that pretty much is meant to... Well, I mean, again, it's pretty much outdated equipment in terms of what it represents, but in terms of how the story progression works, again, Junie pretty much makes use out of her, you know, defender ship's lackluster stats at this point in the game to really sort of make do. Well, I mean, again, I say lackluster stats, but I mean, even at this point in the game, I remember many years ago still using the defender ship and taking it actually as far as, well, the late game, actually. The only time I actually had to end up trading ships was actually during, Mission 11, where we end up going to a story-centric star system that we never get to see again. Oh, yes. But in the meantime, though, yeah, we do have Tobias pretty much accompanying us to a certain point. There to escort us, his boys from the Bretonian Royal Navy, and hell, long since passed. Well, passed in the sense that they're pretty much leaving us right now, and Tobias is still escorting us. Oh, happy joy for Trent's surrogate father. Or family friend, uncle, parental unit, acquaint. In any case, though, yeah, onwards and upwards as we now finally make tracks to our next star system. And, yeah, we actually get to see a little bit more of the border worlds, and, yeah, unfortunately you don't really get to go back to, well, I mean, you can technically go back, but, yeah, again, as I mentioned, you do get to see some, pretty sick equipment, which, again, you do get to see some of the more powerful weapons and powerful ships that are in the border worlds, and, well, more often than not, usually located in the factions who are, you know, criminally aligned, so, yeah, if you want some of the best ships in the game, you know, gonna make good friends with the Corsairs, Outcasts, or, you know, whatever else, really, but, yeah, you're not gonna be able to buy or purchase any of it, and, yeah, again, that's all to do with the fact that you're pretty much level-gated. Although, I mean, I did hear that, again, in terms of mods, and, you know, of fucking course there is actually a rebalancing mod for Freelancer's campaign that, I believe does actually remove the whole level up thing, so again, that pretty much does give you free access to, you know, scrounge together as many credits as you want to before, you know, missions or whatever, and then you can go to different star systems, get more powerful equipment, and then, you know, play the game on easy street. Population? Me. Or, not me, really. Because, I mean, yeah, to kind of talk about Freelancer and modding, or modding and PC games in general during my childhood, that was one of the few things that really eluded me. I mean, I wasn't quite as tech-savvy as I was now, and the only person who I really seem to remember that actually managed to get a lot of mods to work was, actually a friend of mine, but that was only because, you know, he had older brothers who could actually, you know, have the technical know-how to do that sort of thing. And, speaking of which, for those of you wondering, yes, that is the same friend who, also first exposed me to, First Encounter Assault Recon, and left me with childhood scars. Forever. But yeah, a lot of memories, actually. I mean, he didn't mod Freelancer specifically, his, I mean, it was pretty much my first exposure to modding, because I remember he actually modded Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, where, you know, he basically ended up making certain characters Jedi that weren't supposed to be, like Karth and Canderous, and, you know, in turn he also got the Darth Revan robes and mask much earlier than, well, you're supposed to, depending on certain pathways you take. So yeah, it's a nice little look into my childhood, but, you know, that's just, again, like, I mean, I did used to be very much into my PC games. You know, back in the early 2000s before the PS2 took my attention, and oh my god! Rhineland Battleship! Yeah, in the meantime, Trent and Tobias are pretty much gonna hold off this massive junkie, and, yeah, meanwhile, Junie, Quintane, and, Sinclair pretty much make a run for it. Anyway, as we are going to be continuing to hold off what's basically half of the Rhineland fleet pretty much tracking us down, in more star systems than one, as you're going to be seeing throughout the end of this 27-minute long part. Yeah, one thing I did actually want to talk about, and yeah, it's usually best for you to pretty much just sort of, you know, just sort of hold them off right here, but yeah, cloaking technology. Again, something that's pretty much meant to be unheard of and unseen around this point in time. Again, I did mention beforehand the rumors that, again, the only times that the Alliance ever really got it to work was by utilizing, like, 4 battleship generators, but, yeah, that was actually a pretty commonplace thing during the Freelancer era, apparently. So, yeah, apparently cloaking technology was a thing in Freelancer, but I guess became something of a lost art. Quite curious, really, although then again, was it potentially something that the Coalition had and not the Alliance, or... I don't know. Technology lost over the centuries, I suppose. In any case, though, yeah, now we pretty much focus on these new trade lanes and pretty much just make our way far away from all the Rhineland battleships as we hear the epic music. Dun 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 dun. There we go. Now let us take off through the trade lanes. Delicious, tasty, lovable trade lanes. God, this game's soundtrack is really fucking good. I really gotta... I mean, I do have some of the tracks on, on my computer that I've had for years at this point, but, God, if you can track down the official OST, it is fucking beautiful. Huh? Rhinelanders disrupting trade lanes. Yes, now we get to find the jump hole, and, yeah, it's actually kind of odd, actually, like, in terms of how jump holes function in this game, like, and it's only really to do with, like, some, star systems, particularly, again, mainly story-related star systems, but, yeah, one, coming on much later on in the game, which is pretty much story-specific, yeah, it'll pretty much say docking not allowed inside one of the jump holes, even though you can pretty much access them anyway, and they shouldn't even really require any clearance, and it's not even like a case of, what the in-universe explanation for jump holes is that they're pretty much anomalies in space that'll warp you places or possibly end up killing you, depending on, random coordinates in space and, debris in your path. Yeah, I don't know. Just a odd story-to-gameplay integration where you can't really explore as much as you want, and in the other case, well, don't really get to go back to certain star systems, even if you would want to. Yeah, but anyway, I kind of misspoke beforehand. This is where Tobias and Trent pretty much take out some of the Rhineland gunboats. And he admits that he's proud of his Trent. And also he has quite possibly our next purchasable ship, the Hawk. Well, again, at least one of the better ships you can purchase for the next part of the game, actually. Because, yeah, in terms of what you're getting in terms of upgrading your ship, again, you're getting more nanobot batteries, nanobot batteries, shield batteries, and, obviously a higher class of weapon, and, in turn, a bunch of different perks depending on what you pick. Depending on whether it's, light fighter, cargo freighter, or, heavy fighter. Again, the only real difference between freighters and the others are, cargo space, but, you can mount a fair amount of turrets, and, while I wouldn't recommend, using freighters for, the storyline missions, I don't know, like, I mean, I have heard of challenge runs of Freelancer that do actually put freighters to pretty good use, but even in this case, I wouldn't recommend it.
What's the status of the jump hole?
I've taken some readings. Seems to be phase-aligned.
Oh yes, phase-aligned, yeah, it's Thingus Rakamagookus, scientific jargon, blog. There we go. Yes, apparently we need to dock with the jump hole computer that it apparently has phase alignment, whatever else. And Trent goes straight into an asteroid and dies. Or, cracks a glass and he pretty much sees all that fucking freaky ass shit from, like, 2001: A Space Odyssey. In any case, though, now we have entered the Tau systems, and, again, something that is quite beautiful about a lot of the border worlds is that, well, I mean, again, and, I don't know whether or not I mentioned this, during, Liberty or not, but, yeah, you do also get to have a look at, well, basically a lot of the nebulas, cloud clusters, and, a lot of the pretty colors of space, to put it in a very inelegant, fashion, but, yeah, you do get to see, like, the outer borders of each of the systems. Well, while you're within the border worlds, hence border worlds, like Tau and the Omega systems. I don't know, I mean, it makes for a very... It gives, like, each distinctive galaxy, star system, whatever you want to call it, like, a very distinctive flavor, and, again, I do really like that sense of progression. It does make you feel like you're making tracks across the universe via, you know, the jump gates. I mean, it isn't a case of, you know, what you would have played throughout a lot of other games where it's just sort of a case of, like, okay, now you need to go to this star system, okay, loading. You do actually have a bit of space to travel through, but it isn't astronomically so that you're pretty much spending, like, 5 hours in, you know, quote-unquote hyper-realistic space travel and just, you know, making no progress, no fast, so, yeah. Yeah, Freelancer hit a nice balance between the, you know, the realistic and, well, the actionized elements that I just can't help but love. See, look over there, there's a Liberty space off in the background. The sun. Yeah, in any case, we're pretty much just sort of stopping off for, you know, a bit of supplies around this little base over here. And then, well, yeah, be prepared for a fight, because something tells me Rhineland isn't quite gonna let us get to Kusari space just yet. Thank you, Shinkaku. Copy that.
Guess what? There actually was a message for Quintane.
Apparently, the Kress base is not far. It's in a secret location on the far side of this system. The bartender gave me a set of coordinates. I'm uploading them now. My friends, I will take my leave from you now. If there is indeed a war coming between Rhineland and Bretonia, I am needed at home.
I understand. Thank you for everything, Tobias.
We will meet again, I promise. Trent, get these people to safety, then find out what this artifact of yours is all about. Good luck to all of you.
Alright, everybody. Let's get moving.
We have to be careful. The bartender warned me that Rhineland ships have been sighted in the area. He suggested that we fly through the methane field. It should mask our engine signatures.
What did the bartender say about Kress?
Not much. He told me that Kress frequently operates in this area, and then he gave me these coordinates. That's all. Unfortunately, the field will only provide us with cover for half of the way. After that, we'll have to fly through open space.
Well then, that's a little bit balls, and, yeah. Wonder who's gonna be waiting for us in open space. Maybe they'll have some things of our own to make space a little bit less open.
From now on, we're without cover.
Oh no!
So far, radar is clear.
Yep, I'm sure it'll stay that way, Sinclair. Happy thoughts.
Oh my God.
Looks like the whole damn Rhineland fleet.
This is the Rhineland Battleship Schiller. Cut your engines and deactivate your weapons system. Prepare to be boarded.
We can't win this. Trent?
I'm picking up new contacts, coming in very fast.
Professor Quintane, Colonel Kress sent us to help you. Kress, how did you know? No time to explain. We're uploading coordinates. Professor, you and the freighter have to fly there as quickly as you can. We'll try to hold off the Rhineland fleet.
To all ships, we have unidentified targets on an intercept course. All fighter wings, break and attack.
Moving to intercept. This is Razor Leader. Concentrate your fire on the heavy cruiser.
Roger that.
Red alert! The Schiller is hit! Man all turrets! All of the fighters! Engage enemy ships!
We're locked on. Quintane escorts. We could use your help. Engage the Rhineland ships. We have to buy the Professor time to get away.
Oh man, here we go again. By the way, I'd like to point out that, again, like, you know, a lot of Kress's ships are pretty much using a saber, which, in terms of where it ranks compared to a lot of other ships in the game, it's pretty much a... Well, I mean, again, I haven't really tested it out for myself, but I think it's like a slightly more maneuverable version of, you know, the heavy defender that you have in Liberty space. But the problem is, the only place you can really get it in, you know, in terms of, like, the early game stuff is, you know, on the Liberty Rogue space in New York, so... Yeah, I do kind of want to dedicate a playthrough to actually test out the Saber for, you know, the early game and use it as part of my early game ship, but I don't know, like, there's not really much of a chance for you to change your reputation with, you know, the Liberty Navy and Security Force, you know, for the early game before you become a fugitive and, you know, really have a much better handling ship than what you'd otherwise be able to get. I mean, I would like to do it at one point just for, you know, the sake of itself, but, yeah. Either way, though, this is where the difficulty spike comes in. I mean, if you thought the previous segments were hard against the Rhineland fleet, this one is very much your typical sort of like Star Wars, god, fucking bullet hell sugar me do with Rhineland stealth blades all about, and yeah. Again, like, I mean, really very efficient German fighters with, you know, gunboats, you know, shooting missiles and, you know, having very powerful defenses, as well as a fucking battleship right there with some ultra-powerful turrets. Yeah, maneuverability is key here. Again, I wouldn't say too fixated on a target for that long, which admittedly, when I'm playing through Freelancer, is one of my issues in terms of taking a lot of damage and, you know, by extension, utilizing a lot of, you know, shield batteries and, you know, nanobots, is because I'm too fixated on wanting to make sure that people die. But yeah, I will say that one of the benefits of having a light fighter and, you know, utilizing the strategy I mentioned beforehand with the Space Invaders, you know, cut engines, zigzag, and reverse direction, is that, yeah, you get to be a lot more maneuverable, and that can save your ass in a pinch. But, yeah, I mean, again, it's really all dependent on your playstyle and, you know, how, I mean, because again, it's not to say that missiles or, you know, torpedo launchers or whatever are ineffective, it's just that, you know, sometimes enemies do also have countermeasures, and, well, again, countermeasures can only really sort of be effective half the time, because there is a chance that they will still hit you, and, you know, missiles and torpedoes do get more powerful as the game goes on, so, yeah, I mean, it really does sort of pay to know your equipment, know your build, and, sort of know, like, what sort of build that you wish to go for in terms of, your ship combat. Which, I mean, again, like, I mean, this is just, as I mentioned so many times in the past, so many little subtle nuances to Freelancer's actionized gameplay that just really sort of helps, you know, make the flow of combat feel interesting, depending on, you know, what build you're going for. I mean, quite frankly, the only real disappointing aspect of this, and again, I'm not talking about some of the stuff like the Discovery mods or, you know, stuff in the multiplayer where you do get to take control of cruisers and battleships, is that in the single-player game, at the very least, you don't get to control a battleship or cruiser at all, so... yeah. And, by the way, for those of you wondering, like, if similar to Rhineland, we end up getting cloaking technology, sadly, no dice. You don't get to use cloaking technology, and, that's a bit of a shame. I mean, personally, I would have thought that you probably could have had, like, a sort of system where, like, you can cloak, but you can't use weapons. I don't know. Well, that might have been pretty cool at the very least, but... Queashed, I suppose. But yeah, in any case, so you're pretty much doing this battle, you know, for the long run, so yeah, you do need to take out the battleship, you do need to take out the Rhineland gunboats and fighters, so yeah, there's no running away this time, you're pretty much gonna, well, grin and bear it, really. Jesus. Yeah, in any case, we still have a bit more battle going on, so I guess I might as well talk about the one feature that I've sort of brought up in passing, even in this very part, actually, and that's to do with, well, Trent's log entries slash his diary. It's not done in, like, a typical clinical sort of, like, a Star Trek kind of, like, log entry. Stardate. Episode 3, Scene 4 of Henry VIII, Act 2. The Prelude. No, it's written in a very informal style and does pretty much keep progress with, you know, what Trent's actually doing in the game. But the thing of it is that it's also, you know, written with Trent's own personality and his input, really. So, again, he'll talk about, like, you know, I raced against Dexter Hovis, he was a cheating bastard, I went off to go get Quintane, and this old fart is pretty much a clueless moron who calls it methane as opposed to methane. Oh god, we are totally screwed if this is Bretonia's best and brightest, which, again, is quite funny. I mean, again, it's amusing stuff, but also keeps track of your progress in the game, so, yeah, I mean, in a lot of aspects similar to what I've done with, you know, the Ansem reports in Kingdom Hearts and what I plan to do with, you know, the Professor Joe Robotnik diary and Sonic X Shadow Generations. I was considering on maybe, like, posting some of these in, like, YouTube video format with, you know, music and everything, but, yeah, I'm not really too sure about Trent's diary, because it is meant to keep track of where you are in the game, and, yeah, I mean, I don't know if, anybody would really be interested in that, but, I don't know. I guess a potential future project if I happen to feel like it, really.
We made it. We're at the coordinates.
Woohoo! Yeah, wee-haw, yoo-hoo, woohoo, and yeah. Oh, look at that floating debris in space. No, the floating battleship debris in space. Whoopee. So yeah, we pretty much just took on an entire German fleet in one. God save the Queen, I suppose. And that is actually quite true, because, yeah, in keeping with the different cultures of, you know, the various ships that traveled, you know, into the Sirius systems, yeah, again, you know, Liberty has a president, you know, with President Jacoby, you know, Rhineland has, you know, Chancellor Neiman, and, yeah, Kuzari has, you know, a shogun, in keeping with, you know, Japan's historical, culture, and indeed, Bretonia, in fact, has a queen. So, yeah. Oh yeah, thank you, well, I mean, yeah, technically yes, thank you, because I were quite useful in battle. But in any case, so, we're gonna be meeting Kress in the next part, so, yeah. Pretty much gonna be... Well, I mean, again, it's not quite as awkward a cut as I made back in, you know, Liberty space between, you know, the missions with, you know, before us meeting Walker and, meeting the cloaking Rhineland ships, but, yeah. Oh, by the way, this is a gas pocket nebula. Basically, the thing you gotta watch out for here is, running into gas pockets that will, well, explode in contact with your ship. I believe your shield does take a fair amount of, punishment, so again, you shouldn't worry too much, but, yeah, I do seem to recall, like, some, gas pocket fields actually doing damage to your hull despite your shield, so, yeah, do be very careful, otherwise you will die. I mean, it's not quite as volatile as, like, high-density radiation zones or, like, Zone 21 back in Liberty, but, you do have to be careful because, yeah, as I mentioned before, space is a very dangerous place. And you will die. Oh yes, you will die. Until you see the next part of Freelancer. So on that note, I'm Solidus-Skully, and whoa! See you next time, dudes!